What's up guys, Roblox Gaming 4K with an art review. So instead of another Assassin's Creed Unity anime boogaloo video, I'm doing a paint over of Flakes study, also known as DijiTurk's study of my original piece that I put on gridartist.org. So let's just jump into it. So you had 3 points you wanted me to address: the lighting on the jacket, the hair, and the shadow on the ground. So the shadow, it's way too blue, just desaturated, maybe more gray. The cast shadow, flatten it out. So I'm using this rake brush and this kind of a blending brush. That's just the default palette knife brush with a rotation. Nothing too fancy. So your background is a bit patchy, splodgy, as well with the shadow. So I'm just gonna refining it, just blending it. I'm just using an airbrush, a default airbrush, and I'm using the blender brush that I showed. And as you can see, I'm not focusing on making it an absolutely perfect blend, just so nothing sticks out when I'm zoomed out. So one of the main tips I can give you is that your shapes kinda suck, like they're jagged, just way too complex. Just simplify the shapes, makes them look better. I put a little bit of ambient occlusion on the shoe, makes it look like it's actually on ground, the floor. And like here, the skull shape on the shoe, just make it simpler. Refine the edges and make it a good shape. And like almost every single one of your shapes is quite jagged. So just focus on making them not jagged. I'm also using this square brush, which is just the default opacity brush, but it's square. Also just these holes that you have left on the leg, mainly on the leg, I don't know why. And like I'm highlighting here that it looks like the left shoe is bigger than the right one, but is it? Maybe a little bit. So I'm just making the left shoe a little bit smaller from the top, and it's pretty weird that it just instantly makes it look more proportioned. Just a small thing. So the main anatomy mistake you made was the head. It's quite wonky. It reminds me of the aliens from the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. And I'm just drawing the skeleton to show you that the proportions are fine, but the head is the main culprit of it looking wonky. Just refining the shapes or the edges, making them a little less jaggy. So yeah, I noticed that you didn't bother painting the dragon. I don't blame you. It was horrible, but fun at the same time. But I'm just adding some ambient lighting on the back, just to make it really obvious. Make the form really obvious. The form of the back. So one big tip, focus on the form. Like the back, it's gonna dip, like there's two valleys. So the pattern on the back is gonna warp. So I was a little confused when I first saw this. I was seeing like he had some kind of a goggles that illuminated this red light, but he's not wearing goggles. I think you just looked at the helmet or the mask and you didn't exactly know what you were looking at, so you just drew what you think you were looking at. Maybe you thought he was wearing goggles, I don't know. And here I just selected around the head and I just very brutally decapitated him and just made it bigger. And sure, you gotta repaint some parts, but that's why you should, before you put any detail in, you should fix all the proportional errors so you don't have to repaint all the detail. So here I'm trying to visualize what that eye part on the mask is. Because the eye hole is like an oval, it's gonna show up on the other side from this perspective, if you know what I'm saying. So it's gonna have this dip on the mask. So you actually did the lighting on the mask backwards, like you had dark on the bottom and light at the top, but I have the other way around. So that's just kind of weird that you did it the opposite way. So here I'm just refining the shapes on the straps and putting on some highlights. Not very detailed highlights, but you were missing those. So the hair, question mark. I don't know why you thought it was hair, because it was black or almost black. It didn't really look, it didn't have hair texture. It's just fabric, or that's what I originally intended it to be, but it could be hair. I'm just making it look like it's fabric. So this is what you can do to check your proportions. Like, he's wearing a mask. His head is much smaller. It has to fit and fit the other proportions. So I'm just checking here if the head is too small compared to the rest of the body, and I think it fits. I think it fits into the mask. So that's a.k.a. So now to this red part of the jacket. I'm not really seeing any folds, or it doesn't really look like it's bunching up like you would get from a leather jacket like this. So I'm just adding some shadows. You could use multiply, but it just makes the shadow way too dark. Like if you compare the value of the blacks with multiply, it's much darker. So I'm just gonna use normal mode and just put on some darker shadows. And for the highlights, I'm using the holy color dodge. Now color dodge is very potent. Don't overdo it, be very light-handed. So now I'm just searching for a pattern from Google, and yeah, I didn't paint the pattern on the jacket because I already painted the dragon, and I was not gonna do any more of small detailing. And none of these brush strokes are designed, they just happened. Like this leg. So now I'm just gonna make the pattern red. I don't have any kind of a process of making things a particular color. I'm just gonna try things, and here I decided to just make a new layer on top of it, set it to color, and then merge it down. So it's red now. Yay! And here I'm using the segmented transform to make it fit under the shape and the form of the jacket, to make it look like it kind of has folds. It doesn't look that convincing, but it's good enough. I'm using levels to tweak the value, which is the most important part to make the pattern fit. Don't make it too bright, because you can use color dodge on top of it, and then just using normal mode to darken it, and again adjusting the value. And yeah, don't be a slave to a process. I do things differently every time. What is this? Oh, it's a leg. Wow. Yeah, that's why you should stay zoomed out. Never just zoom in, because you will lose the big picture. And for the halo effect, don't use the color dodge. It'll make the white too bright compared to the rest of the background. So just use normal mode. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot the main thing, the pose. It kind of looks like he's having his whole weight on his left leg. I mean, it looks alright, but it's not the same in my original one. So I'm just gonna make him lean a bit more, and it just changes the whole dynamic of the piece. And remember, you can never have too much ass. So the rest of this is just tweaking. And remember, to fix the big problems, you should paint small. And to fix the small problems, you should paint big, aka to fix the big proportional errors. And what's wrong with the picture, you should stay zoomed out. And to fix the very small minuscule details, you should just zoom in. So compared to my original one, the blacks are still too dark, so I'm just gonna tweak the values a bit with levels. So I hope this paint over helped you, DijiTurk, aka Flake. Here's a thumbs up, an evil thumb, who has a gun. Okay, bye.